Hello. It is Wedding Hero Wednesday. I am so thrilled you can join. My name is Mark, if you didn't know. So happy to be with you. On Wedding Hero Wednesday, we go through my number one best-selling book about weddings. It's Wedding Zero to Ceremony Hero. That's not an insult, Wedding Zero. I'm not calling anybody a zero. What I'm saying is, and I've been there, first time I got asked to officiate a wedding, you're like, I'm at wedding number zero. You know, a lot of officiants like to kind of notch their belt. Some officiants count how many ceremonies they have done. I'm at 100. I'm at 200. I'm at 300. I had somebody buy the course a couple months ago. She said, I'm at ceremony number 146. She'd been counting. And then she said, I bought Mark's Unboring Wedding Academy. She actually wrote a review and sent me this email and posted it in the group too, in our private Facebook group. Wedding number 146, I think it was. She said, I tried Mark's system, told the story, and crushed it. It was the greatest ceremony I'd ever done. Everyone said it was the best. Love that. So whether you're at 146 or 246 or zero, always more to learn. And that is why I wrote this book. Well, I should show you the cover, not the back. Wedding Zero to Ceremony Hero. So just learn this system, sit down with your couple, inspire confidence in them, become their guide. That is really what this is about, is walking your couple through a meeting, and they will be so confident in you and you will crush it. And so we want to give them the ceremony that they want. That is ultimately what we are after. So hello to everybody in the chat joining. This is meant to be very interactive. If it is your first time, I am thrilled you're here. There are always amazing members of the community in the chat, which I always find so incredible, because this whole book essentially is stage one of my course, Unboring Wedding Academy. So if you're a member and you're a member of the course and you've watched stage one and been through that training, you have essentially the content of the book. And of course, the spreadsheet is a gift to you if you want to use that and follow along. unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet, all one word there, and you can get the resource that I'm essentially walking us through in the book, and I will put that up on the screen coming up here as we guide our couple through a 1-hour workshop session, and we want to go through every detail. So we are at the part of the workshop now with our couple and the part of the book. Page 72 is where we are. This is session number 13, and so in the previous 12 sessions, we've covered 72 pages. We've got about 30 pages to go until we hit the end. But we are at the point in the conversation with our couple where last week we talked about, the whole session last week was one one row of the spreadsheet, which was unity ritual. So if you want to find out what you missed, pop back in there, check out the whole conversation about unity rituals. Get all the replays on my channel, YouTube channel, which you're watching now. You can head over to the live tab and you'll see every time I've gone live, it is in there. The exception of that is members only office hours. That's private. That's the secret link. And yet I see Sabrina on here. Love it. Sabrina is a member and she's taking it public. She's talking out of school, as they say. And it's okay, Sabrina. I love how you said, like, I don't know if I can ask a question referring to yesterday's office hours. Will we be able to permanently change the officiant name to ourselves, or will we continue to need to change from Mark to our own name? So yeah, you're referring to the script you get as part of my course. It is a template, and my name is there wherever your name should be when you first get the template. That's an amazing suggestion for our new ceremony management platform, which I did give members a first look of yesterday. That's where everything is automated for you. Every step, you're just going to click send, send, send. You only have to type your couple's emails in once. Every step is done for you. And the script template, when it hits, that is amazing. No, the plan is, I'm going to answer your question. The plan is that because you are a member and the system knows your name, it will be your name there everywhere the officiant is. You don't have to swap out Mark. Now, one thing I'm going to say, and this is, not on topic of our book, but hey, we've never needed to stay on topic, is Sabrina, if that's annoying for you, I think what I don't intend for you to keep coming back to that template and copying the one that says Mark every time. Why don't you make yourself a master template of my script until this software comes out in a couple months tops? I hope I have another meeting with the development team tomorrow. So over the next couple months for all your weddings, make a copy, put your name in there. So swap Sabrina in there for Mark once and be done with it. And now use that new copy as your master that you will copy for every subsequent ceremony. Does that make sense? That's, I think, how I intended it to be done. Because, if I were you, I'd be annoyed too. I'd be annoyed changing Sabrina every time to Mark. So why shouldn't you consider that kind of inconvenient? So make a master copy and then copy from there. At least you'll have that straight every single time. It'll always say Sabrina. Like I say, I love that question. I had to hustle off yesterday after about 40 minutes. So couldn't field every question about our new ceremony management platform. But because you are going to register on the platform to use for all your ceremonies, the system will know your name and pop it in wherever wherever Mark would have been, okay, in the script as it generates it. Everything's going to be generated from the information from your couple in terms of their ceremony, but the system will be able to pop your name in. Okay, enough about that. I'm not ready to release it to the public yet. So let's get to the public stuff, Sabrina. John says, good day from the chief cook and bottle washer at Cooper Weddings. Cloudy and cool here in Massachusetts. Nice to see you. Paul just says the sun just popped out in Connecticut, so good to see you. Yeah, I should be showing these. Comments, shouldn't I? Latina, hi there. Good to see you. So glad you're here. Tamara's here from sunny Illinois. Happy May Day. I've been wished a happy May Day a couple times today in my inbox. That is, it's May. I can't believe it. As a Canadian, I'm not sure that's something that we say. I'm aware of May Day, but maybe Americans wish people a happy May Day a little bit more. Spring has sprung in Southern California. Good to see you here, Mark. Missed you yesterday. You must have been busy. I know some people can't meet in the middle of the day like this, or you got to choose your sessions. Cecilia's here from Victoria, BC. Nice to see you. And let's see. Mark says, secret link. Did I miss your mailing out the secret code? There's no secret. Well, what I mean is office hours is an unlisted video. We're not going public, right? But here I am on the internet now publicly saying, if you become a member of Unboring Wedding, we have members only office hours once a month. And so kind of the way to keep that in-house is it's an unlisted secret YouTube link, essentially. Okay, it's just not public. You didn't miss anything, Mark. We wouldn't keep you out of the loop ever. You're too valuable a member for that. Paul says the sneak preview looked amazing. I got a little excited. I was watching the video again, which I rarely do, but I'm like, did I make sense when I was showing the ceremony management platform yesterday? And I got excited. I was getting excited watching myself get excited because I cannot wait for officiants and celebrants around the world to just be able to click to the next step. Click, click, and their couple gets the answers, the questions, and then you get and it's all done on one screen in one place. No more copying and pasting and emailing. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, I get excited. Ina Weddings, finally, I'm here on time. Greetings from Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Love it. With emojis that make us feel really into the tropical spirit. I designed around 100 ceremonies. I always learn something new. Wow. Thank you so much, Ina. Love to see that. Okay. Thank you. Sabrina says I could have thought of that in a few years. Well, you have a couple months now to implement this new system of making yourself the Sabrina master copy and going from there. All right, friends, I do want to cover some rows. I love that you said hi. It is a beautiful day outside here. I think it's a beautiful day outside in most places. Let's pick up where we left off last week. Yesterday was that top secret members only thing. And so I want to talk about where we are now. Hey there, Sandy. Good to see you. New member here. And Sandra, also a member of Unboring Wedding Academy. Good to see both of you. Love it. Now, As before I say anything here, let me just remind you, put some questions in the chat. When I'm looking into the spreadsheet, I'm not always seeing what's going on in the chat. So if I miss it, I'll try to come back and scroll. But let me talk the next sections of the book through here. And essentially where we're at now, I'm going to head over to this tab, is we've covered all this stuff. Significant member passing away. I did get that question. When do I say that? That was a question of the week, or I answered that recently. Get it right down off the top. When after the processional, that was a couple weeks ago, we covered that. Readings, I talked about that. Religious elements like prayers or blessings, we covered that. Unity rituals, that was all last week. Here I have a separate row in our ceremony planning spreadsheet, unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet. If you want to grab this for yourself and join along and use it for all your ceremonies. Are there any custom elements? I did a wedding a few years ago as I was developing. The course was out. I was teaching and I was using this, but I got an email from a bride. I always follow up and say, I loved officiating. Hope you had a great day. Thank you. Loved my time with your family. And she said, Mark, yes, the ceremony was amazing. Thank you. But we were absolutely devastated that you missed something that we asked you to do in the wedding workshop. We are creating a blended family, as you know, and Sean, the groom, wanted to address my daughter and give her a little gift and say to her that he commits to her the same way he commits to me. He's not going to replace her father, but he will be a father to her. It was beautiful, and she said that was completely absent from the ceremony, and we were devastated, and we worked it into the reception later. But what happened? I won't leave you a bad review, but I can't leave you a good review. And I mean, I went right away. It's that sweat breaking out, shaking. I was devastated that I let them down this way. I went over to this spreadsheet, and sure enough, with the other rituals that they had there, it was right there. Sean addresses daughter, and it was on the cell previous with kind of other unity rituals. It was on a list. They had chosen a couple rituals, and I just somehow completely missed it. It still lands in terms of like, wow, I really messed up and let that couple down. Of course, I emailed them back, apologized profusely, took all the responsibility. Now, there is that little thing where I do email them the script. Those of you who are members of the course, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. Part of our routine, right, is to email them and say, here's your script. It's done. Please look it all over, top to bottom. You don't include the story in there. But right after this workshop, you're going to use all this data, copy it all over. And the new ceremony management platform will do all this automatically. It'll just generate the script from the info you type. But Google Forms, we're not there yet. And so they should, you send them the script and then you say, please look this over. I want you to sign off on everything. Well, they had obviously not done that because the headings are clear. Everything is clear. They didn't go in and look at the script. Again, it's not on them. It's on me. But I was leaning too hard on them to go look at it and catch that. They never looked at it. So I thought the script is fine. So this is one of the reasons why, I go back when I'm done the script now and look again at the workshop notes here, the spreadsheet, to make sure I didn't miss anything. But the second thing that I do, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. You should never list the two things unless you remember the things, right? So what I was saying was you should never... what this means for me is I make sure to go back and check. Oh, yeah, it's so obvious that I didn't remember. What I'm saying is it's so obvious here. Number 58, row 58 here. That's why I added it. I'm kind of like, what was the point of that story? The point of the story was it made me change the spreadsheet. This is why I added an extra row. This wasn't there before. And like I say, that's how I missed it. On row 57, It was just part of rituals. So that's why I added unity rituals. 58. Unity rituals, I'll flip back over, is 57. And then other custom elements is 58. Okay. So go back and check this spreadsheet after you generate the script so you don't miss anything. But that is why I have this extra row for us now. It wasn't in my first iteration of the course or this spreadsheet. Uh, so I use even examples here: a step parent addressing a new child, vows to kids, community vows, I would say. Okay. So one of the big things like that you'll see here, I don't always ask my couple, are there any other rituals? You might want to make that as a matter of course in your workshop with the couple. But the big, I'd say the most common kind of custom element here is when you know there's a blended family being created. So step kids, or one bride or groom has some kids and other bride or groom has other kids, and they're creating a new family. And blended family rituals, vows, where the parent who is not the biological parent of the kids will vow to them or even give them a gift. I've seen, for example, a father giving a necklace and vowing to love, and again, not replace their father, but be as a father to them, love them like they are their own. This stuff is usually not a dry eye in the place. It's absolutely beautiful. And so if I know that there's kids, and it's a blended family, I will ask, do you want to do any custom elements such as vowing or making comments? Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes the couple just says, yes, can you mention, we don't need to do anything. Like groom Sean doesn't want to say anything himself, but can you acknowledge that there is a blended family being created here, and maybe name our kids and say bride and groom, or groom and groom want you to know that they are consecrating and vowing and promising to love you in the same way they are themselves. I've done that where you just address the children. Sometimes they're different age groups. So that's the kind, I'm just giving you examples for the kind of custom elements or rituals. Again, that's not really a ritual. It's just another element that might not fit in unity ritual box or religious rituals. It's kind of other, and that's why I want to put it in there. I never want to miss that kind of thing. Again, another example is community vows, where you say to the friends and family, you look out to the crowd and say, of course, something like, it takes a village. They have vowed their lives to each other, but they are going to need the support and love of all of you. And so I'm going to ask you, please reply with "we do." Friends and family, do you commit to supporting them and loving them, etc., etc.? And you can just kind of signal. Everybody typically shouts, "we do." It's a lovely moment. And a lot of couples want to add something like community vows in there as well. I don't add that into every wedding, and I typically don't start recommending things outside of vows and rings, just because there's so many things you can recommend. I typically ask, so we ask, of course, do you want a unity ritual, which they've heard of? But then if you start saying, here's other things we can do in a ceremony, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do a photo moment, we can do, like, I guess you can do that, but there's really no end. If you have certain things that you love to do, your own officiant or celebrant flavor, if you like to do community vows in every ceremony, this might be where you kind of, decide, adapt this a little bit to your own use, and suggest to them right here. Now, I like to do community vows where I ask all your friends and family, do you like that? Maybe you want to just offer that by default and do it by default, that kind of thing. So that's why I've allowed for that here, because as I explained, it is devastating if you forget. And they really, really wanted that. Okay, let's move down to the next cell now, because we are out of the elements. I feel like we should virtually high five. Now we are talking about vow styles. Okay, and we've already talked about these earlier in the conversation. Remember when we asked them what style of mic we would need? Okay, and the reason why we kind of put it up there is if they're writing their and reading their own vows, they will need to be mic'd. But if they are not, if they're just saying "I do," then you don't need to worry about the mic. So we jumped into that deep end of the pool, got deep into the weeds up above, And so we should already know the answer here. It's this quick. I do go through it in the book again, though. And so, because we are covering the book, I will remind you we want to ask them, which of the three styles are you doing? Again, they've already probably told you up above, but the first is write and read their own vows. Now, I do extrapolate a bit more in the book on page 74 about guiding your couple through that. Typically, when we're asking them what style of mic for the vow, what style of vows for the mics, that is where I typically say, okay, we'll get to the vows later, and I'll give you a little bit more guidance. Especially when they say we want to write and read our own vows. When they decide to write and read their own vows, I like to tell them here in the workshop, okay, you've decided to write and read your own vows. I'm not sure if you need any guidance. There's literally online courses you can purchase about how to write and read your own vows. Chat GPT is helping people out. There's software about writing your own vows, that kind of thing. So you can Google it. But my thought, and has been for years and years, is your vow part is really just filling in the blanks, not like a robot, but I tell my couple, when you're writing and reading your own vows, remember you're making promises. So your vows should be vowy, right? Yeah. So you're essentially filling the blanks. I will blank. I promise to blank. I commit to blank. I vow to blank. I will always. I commit to. I vow to. I promise. Right? And I just tell them, think about what kind of partner you want to be. Think about what kind of spouse you aspire to be. Think about the couple that you want to be a part of, and your place in that, and what you're going to do to make that happen. What's your aspiration as a bride or groom, someone getting married, a spouse? And that's typically all the guidance they need. Again, maybe they might Google or that kind of thing, but that helps them get going when they write and read their own vows. If they're writing and reading their own vows, I tell them at this point, you are going to send those to me. Typically, sometimes they have a little souvenir, like a vow book. It's usually the size of a passport, which I often collect from them and put it in my binder. Sometimes it'll be like the best man will have them or something like that. They'll be brought to the front like the rings. That's an option. But what we don't want, whether it's email them to me, I'll format them on a nice clean sheet of paper, and I will hand you the sheet in a nice like laminated slip cover when it's time, right out of my binder, or it's the little vow booklet. What we don't want is them pulling out a crumply wad of paper, unfolding it, and having a hard time reading it because they're crying or whatever, right? That is what we're trying to avoid. When I was at ceremony zero, weddings, I saw too much of this, my first few. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. That's when I started asking my couple, email it to me. I'll format it nice and big and bold so that I can just hand you a clean sheet of paper when it's your turn to read in the wedding ceremony. Okay. And it's gone great from there. And if they choose the vow book route, that's where they'll typically tell you, oh, we're going to write them in a vow book. And then I still say, if you're handwriting them, write big and clean, more exaggerated than usual, because you might be crying, believe it or not. And it is difficult to read sometimes when you are in an emotional state. If your eyes are filling with tears, you don't want to be trying to read chicken scratch. Okay. So that has been really effective in helping them out. The other guidance I give them is around length. I do not tell them, make your vows 1 minute, make your vows, 30 seconds or 5 minutes. I say your vows can be as long as you both want them to be. But if you're writing and reading your own vows and they're going to be a secret from each other, which, typically they are, that's why they're doing it. They're unique. Then agree on a word count. That is what I tell them. We don't want one person reading 15 seconds and the other person going on for 3 minutes. That's a little bit awkward. So that's something you might want to check if they send them to you. I always say, I'm not going to grade your vows like they're your vows, but I will try to make sure that you have agreed, you've had this conversation, 200 words each. How many are yours, honey? Oh, mine are about 150. Okay, I'll aim for that too. Get on the same page, so to speak, with the word count so that people get a sense that the vows are about the same length. Again, not necessarily amount of time, but I think we do mark it. Like, yeah, they sounded like in terms of words, they were the same. Okay. That's really all the guidance I give them at this point of the workshop around writing and reading their own vows. The second option, of course, is, and I don't give them all that advice until they say, we want to write and read our own vows. Many, many couples, you say, do you want to write and read your own? And they go, absolutely not. We are not. It's like, okay, okay. Then you're not going to bore them with all those details that are irrelevant. But then, second, you will say, do you want to repeat after me line by line? Now, repeat after me, of course, is I always say, I would call that the middle level where I'm feeding you a line. You are saying the line. You're involved. You're saying your own vows. I always tell them it'll be in contemporary English. I have kind of placeholder vows. That's not elevated enough. I have vows that I love that I use with most couples that I put in the script. And if you're a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, you see those, you know what those are. Most couples absolutely love them. I tell them though, if you want to swap those out, if you have other ideas of what to repeat, please let me know. I'll put them in, or you might say, Mark, what else you got? I do have a menu of vows that I do have in the bonuses section of Unboring Wedding Academy. I've shared those with members as well. But you've got kind of 10 vow style options there, from formal to really laid back, that most couples will go for. Okay. So you just want to make it easy for them. The third is, do you want to just say, I do? Okay. So write and read your own, repeat after me, or just say, I do. Most couples will choose one of those. And there is a hybrid. So the fourth option is kind of a hybrid where they write and read their own vows and say them to each other, but they still want to do the traditional I do's. So that's where, again, you might want to be ready for your couple to say that or offer that. If you're writing and reading your own vows, do you want to also say I do? This is different from the declaration of intent. So I'm not going to go into that here. I did a Friday live on that. What's the difference between vows and declaration of intent? Declaration of intent is just asking them at some point in the ceremony, do you stand here today to give yourselves to each other in marriage? And they say, we do. That's them declaring their intent to get married. I do that coming out of the story before we get into the vow part. But the vow question of I do is typically more than that. It's just not just, are you here to get married? It's, do you, Sam, take Alex to be your wife, etc., etc., as long as you both shall love. So it's a very long question, a lot more involved typically, and they reply with I do, and you ask each of them that question. Like I said, there's that hybrid. The fifth option, of course, which is kind of outside our purview, is they might write and read their own vows in a first look. And I did a Friday live on that. What do I do when the couple has done a first look? Well, most couples then just opt for the quick I do's in the ceremony. But even if they've, done their own vows in private, I do iterate with the couple. You know what? It is important to vow, to make vows to each other in the community. That needs to be kind of the fulcrum of the whole ceremony. And they agree. It's not usually an argument, okay? So that's the vow part. And now we are ready to go down to the rings. After the vow exchange, we got the ring exchange. And really, the only detail here to ask is who's holding the rings. I don't go into all kinds of detail for them about what's going to happen here. That is going to be in the script. All the stage directions of who's bringing the rings, etc. So once you get a name, so if they say, for example, traditionally, best man has both rings, or let's say there's a best man and maid of honor. Again, traditionally, best man might have bride's ring, maid of honor might have groom's ring. So they each give them in turn to the person. But sometimes it's an animal coming up. Sometimes it's a grandparent. Sometimes somebody has two rings. Maybe the ring bearer still has them. They might have different ideas. Again, the zeitgeist of TikTok and things like that. They might have different ideas. Who has each of the rings? That's very important for this part to decide and figure out how the rings are going to get into each of their hands in turn when it comes time to exchange the rings. Then really quickly, I just say, is the classic repeat after me ring scripting okay? I don't actually, you know what? I don't typically ask them. I just say, I'm going to ask you a few lines here. You'll see it in the script when you get it. A few repeat after me. And it's, Sam, I give you this ring. Sam, I give you this ring as a reminder of my commitment to you. It's just a few lines, but I tell them, I'm going to ask you to repeat there. Is that okay? Or did you have different ideas? And that's where they typically say, yeah, that's good. Okay, so it's that quick. There's usually not much more detail than that here. I remember last week I said, we're about 5 minutes left in this meeting. Once they have chosen all these elements, custom elements or rituals, there's really just quick decisions to make as the ceremony kind of is on the downward slope here. Okay, now we're going to go to the next one, where, and I know there's thoughts on this. I'd love to hear thoughts on this in the chat from those of you who are experienced. Uh, in New Brunswick, couples still love me to pronounce. So after the ring exchange, again, you might have a blessing here. I mentioned that in the prayer and blessing section, where a blessing right before the pronouncement is really great. You might have like a hand fasting, as I said. There's usually not very much that happens after the ring exchange and before the pronouncement, but there might be a blessing, or they might be a hand fasting if they want to have their hands tied up for the kiss and that. But essentially, the pronouncement, you don't want to ever take anything for granted. You want them to sign off on, I now pronounce you husband and husband, wife and wife, whatever. I ask them, are you comfortable with the titles husband and wife? Or do you want me to just say, I pronounce you married? Okay. And so that is, I'll give them the choice. I pronounce you married. I pronounce you husband and wife. There's many other possible things you could say there. But again, I don't like to give my couple death by 1,000 choices. If they've heard something else or have something else in mind, they will tell it to me now and we'll hash it out. But when we get to this part of the ceremony, typically I just ask, are you comfortable with husband and wife titles, or do you want me to just say I pronounce you married? They will have an opinion about that. And then wrapping up today, and my goodness, we should start giving each other high fives because we made it through this. You may kiss. Do you want me to say, do you may kiss the bride? Again, lots of my couples in New Brunswick, depends on where you are in the world. You may kiss your bride. They like that traditional thing. Yes, I make a joke like, okay, you're okay being kissed. You're the passive person in that declaration. It's kind of like, yeah, it's cheeky. I know I'm not getting kissed. It's mutual, but for tradition's sake, a lot of people still like it. Some couples have asked me to give a little twist on that. You may now kiss your groom if it's a bride and groom. It's a lot of course, if it's two grooms, that's fun. You may kiss your bride if it's two brides, that's fun. But some of them might want you may kiss, or you may share your first married kiss, something like that. Seal it with a kiss. So you can keep it you can keep those titles out of it. Just kind of maybe know your audience, know where you are. I think New Brunswick couples expect me to say, you may kiss your bride. That's what I say at 90% of weddings. That'll probably change over time. Maybe it's already changed where you are. So just be flexible. But I would never want to assume you may kiss your bride is cool in a place, or for most couples, where they just wouldn't want that. Okay. So that's why you want to be sensitive to asking them. Like I said, it's not death by 1,000 choices. We never want to do that. We want to give them a couple of really good options, which might spin off and give them the opportunity to tell us about something they saw or something else they were thinking. That is what we're doing in this meeting, is we're drawing out their preferences, giving them what they want, while we make sure we're getting what they want and kind of meeting in the middle. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful. That's where we're going to pull up to today. That covered, page, let's see, page 78. Yeah, we're at the registry signing, which is going to be interesting because I know in the States, a lot of you haven't seen signing the license in the ceremony. In some states, you don't even need to do it. I argue, and of course, if you don't need to do it, then you probably don't want to do it. But in a lot of states, you still do need to sign. And in Canada, we always sign in the ceremony. It's super fun. You got a song going, everybody gets to see it. People, the couple pose for the cameras. If you got, One Love playing in the back, it's a really great vibe. We're not done yet, and you say that, but you go sign and you come back, and then you get ready for the presentation. So, as I said, just minutes left in this discussion with our couple. Maybe one or two more sessions in terms of the elements section. We're on page 78. Any questions now that I missed in the chat? Please pop them in here if I missed anything. Let's see. Paul says the new software would pick that up. Yeah, I think we were talking about the name right there. Bill, another clear cold day at Tahoe. Good to see you here. And Brenda, did the couple receive any type of refund for the missed element? Oh, that's a good question. Again, they did not want it. They said, we loved our ceremony. We were disappointed in you having missed it. My contract, of course, says if you did not love your ceremony, I will refund you all your money. I do say that to them. That is in my contract. And so I did say, I'm devastated that you're not happy. Can I offer you the full refund? They said, no, we really loved our ceremony. Our friends and family loved the ceremony. They didn't know that that part was supposed to be in there. Nobody knows what's not supposed to be in there, right? And so that's a great question. I did offer, just because it's in my contract. I'm not going to suggest that you should offer to refund if somebody is, you know, upset with your performance. You don't necessarily have to offer that. But in my contract, I say, if you didn't love your ceremony, I'll give you your money back. They said, we do not want a refund and we won't leave you a bad review because we can't. Everybody loved our ceremony and we loved it, except for that part that was missing. It kind of devastated us that Sean couldn't do that. And they said, we pivoted, we could add it in the reception and it was okay. Nobody else. I always say this to coaching clients too on the phone. Nobody knows what's not in there. When you're cutting and trying to keep the ceremony to a responsible length, it's hard to cut things, content that's great. But I always say, don't worry, because nobody's going to know what you cut. But that is an awesome, awesome question. Okay. Oh, wow. We've got somebody here saying, hi, Mark, getting married this Saturday. Thanks for all your content. It really helped develop our ceremony and prepare our officiant for a fun, thoughtful wedding. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really, really good. All the best to you this Saturday. And you're not supposed to do any work. You're getting married, and somehow I've prepared your officiant. Well, that's great, because I want you to be thinking about all the other millions of details. I always say the last thing a bride or groom needs to be worried about is the ceremony. I really want to help take that off your mind. I really want to help officiants so you can just be focused on other things and super enjoy your day. I hope you're excited for your ceremony. If I've helped them, that means it's going to be an amazing doohickey of a ceremony. You're going to love it and you're going to enjoy it, okay? Nancy says, a beautiful day in Brooklyn. That's awesome. Good to know. Is that the note we're ending on? Nancy, a beautiful day in Brooklyn. Any other questions? This is your 10-second warning. Like I said, next week we're going to get into the signing. If you're in the US, you've never seen this done, I might convince you that it's awesome and you should try it. But of course, you can skip that if that's not typical. But I'd invite you to take a read and hear how fun putting a signing in the ceremony is. Then it's really just a matter of coming back, giving some quick closing remarks, and ending with a grand finale. That's why we're going to walk through with our couple in sequence how to close out the ceremony. Then the last part of the book, part 3, is what do you do with all this data? Once this spreadsheet's done, what do you do now? And so we'll talk about making a great script, okay? Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. It's a beautiful day out there here and where you are, from the sounds of it, for the most part. Get out there and enjoy it. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Another Wedding Hero Wednesday. It'll be session 14. And I love spending Wednesdays with you. Thanks, everybody. And if you want to become a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, check us out, www.unboringweddingacademy.com. You can join all these great members and work with me directly. Have a wonderful day, everybody. See you next week. Marry on.